A 35-year-old widowed father is walking through the park with his 6-year-old son on Christmas Eve afternoon, both of them bundled in winter coats and carrying bags from their last-minute shopping trip, when they hear someone crying. Not loud sobbing, but the quiet, desperate kind of crying that comes from someone trying very hard not to fall apart in public. David Morgan follows the sound to find a woman sitting on a bench in the cold, her face buried in her hands. Her shoulders are shaking, and next to her is a little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, with tears streaming down her face, holding a worn, stuffed rabbit and trying to comfort her mother. "Mommy, please don't cry," the little girl is saying. "It's okay if Santa forgot us. Maybe he's just really busy this year. Maybe he'll remember us next year when we're not poor anymore." And David watches this young mother, probably early 30s, wearing a thin jacket that's clearly not warm enough for December in Chicago, her dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Look at her daughter with such heartbreak that it physically hurts to witness. David's son Marcus tugs on his coat. "Dad, that little girl is sad. Can we help them?" David Morgan knows what it's like to feel forgotten by the universe. His wife Sarah died 3 years ago from cancer, leaving him with a 6-year-old son and a heart so broken he didn't think it would ever heal. He knows what it's like to celebrate holidays alone, to struggle with single parenthood, to wonder how to give your child everything they need when you feel completely inadequate. But he also knows that he's lucky. He has a good job as a software engineer. His parents live nearby to help with childcare. He can afford Christmas presents and a warm home and everything Marcus needs. So when he sees this mother and daughter crying on a park bench on Christmas Eve, something inside him shifts. He can't walk away. He won't walk away. "Excuse me," David says gently, approaching the bench. "I'm sorry to intrude, but are you both okay? Can I help with anything?" The woman looks up, quickly wiping her tears, embarrassed to be caught crying by a stranger. "We're fine. Thank you, I'm sorry. We'll move." "Please don't apologize. I'm David, and this is my son Marcus. We were just heading home to make Christmas cookies and—" David pauses, looking at his son, then back at this mother and daughter. "Would you like to join us? For cookies and dinner. We have way too much food, and it seems wrong to spend Christmas Eve alone." This story has an invitation that changes 4 lives. A single mother named Rachel, who's been living paycheck to paycheck since her ex-husband abandoned her and their daughter Emma 2 years ago. A Christmas Eve dinner that starts awkward, but becomes magical when the kids realize they both love dinosaurs and Lego. David watching Rachel laugh with Marcus and feeling something he thought died with his wife. Rachel watching David's gentle patience with both children and wondering if good men actually exist. The next 3 months, where David helps Rachel find a stable job at his company, Rachel starts watching both kids after school because she wants to help, and David's parents are getting older. Monday nights becoming family dinner night, with all 4 of them without anyone quite acknowledging what that means. David's slow realization that he's falling in love with Rachel and his guilt about it because Sarah has only been gone 3 years. Rachel's fear that she's a charity case or a convenient babysitter. And New Year's Eve, when they're both putting the kids to bed and David says, "I can't imagine my life without you and Emma anymore." And Rachel admits, "I've been falling in love with you since that first Christmas Eve." What happens when 2 broken people find each other in a park on Christmas Eve and build a family neither of them thought they deserved? Subscribe now and hit that notification bell because YouTube only shows the ending of this story to our most engaged viewers. If you're not subscribed, you might miss how this Christmas miracle transforms into a forever family. Drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from, because we love connecting with our global community over these heartwarming stories about second chances and unexpected love. Don't miss what happens when a 5-year-old's question about Santa leads to 2 single parents finding exactly what they needed in each other. Rachel Chen was having the worst Christmas Eve of her life, which was saying something considering the last 2 years had been a continuous series of worst days. She sat on a frozen park bench at 3 p.m. on December 24th, watching her 5-year-old daughter Emma play on the mostly empty playground, and tried very hard not to completely fall apart. They'd been evicted from their apartment yesterday, December 23rd, because apparently landlords had no heart during the holidays. Rachel had been 3 weeks behind on rent after Emma got sick and missed school, forcing Rachel to miss work to take care of her, which meant losing her already terrible job at the call center that had no patience for employees with reliability issues. Last night, they'd stayed at a women's shelter. Tonight, they had a spot at a different shelter, one specifically for families. Tomorrow, Christmas Day, they had nowhere to go because the shelters were full, and Rachel's pride wouldn't let her call her parents. Who'd told her marrying James was a mistake, who'd been right, who she couldn't face with, "I'm homeless and broke and you were right about everything." The shelter had given Emma a small donated toy, a used doll with marker on its face. Rachel had cried in the bathroom when Emma hugged it like it was the most precious thing in the world. "Mommy?" Emma had appeared at the bench, her thin jacket inadequate for the Chicago winter, her little face serious. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Baby, is Santa Claus real?" Rachel's heart cracked. "Why are you asking that?" "Because Daddy used to say Santa brings presents to good kids, and you said I was good. But Mommy—" Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Did Santa forget us? Is it because we're poor now? Does Santa not come when you don't have a house?" And that's when Rachel lost it. Started crying right there on the park bench, trying to hide her face so Emma wouldn't see, but knowing she was failing miserably at holding it together. "Mommy, please don't cry," Emma said, climbing onto the bench and wrapping her small arms around Rachel. "It's okay if Santa forgot us. Maybe he's just really busy this year. Maybe he'll remember us next year when we're not poor anymore." Rachel pulled her daughter close and sobbed. Because how do you explain to your 5-year-old that Santa isn't real? That her father is a selfish bastard who abandoned them for his secretary? That the world is unfair and cruel and sometimes good people end up homeless and scared? How do you explain that you're 29 years old and you've somehow failed at everything? Marriage, career, providing for your child. "Excuse me." Rachel looked up through her tears to see a man standing a few feet away, tall, probably mid-30s, with kind brown eyes and dark hair, wearing a nice coat and holding shopping bags. Next to him was a little boy, maybe 6, also bundled in warm winter clothes. "I'm sorry to intrude," the man said gently, "but are you both okay? Can I help with anything?" Rachel quickly wiped her face, mortified. "We're fine, thank you. I'm sorry, we'll move. Please don't apologize." The man smiled, and it transformed his whole face. "I'm David, and this is my son Marcus. We were just heading home to make Christmas cookies and—" He paused, glanced at his son, then back at Rachel. "Would you like to join us? For cookies and dinner? We have way too much food and it seems wrong to spend Christmas Eve alone. If you want." "No." Pressure. Rachel stared at him. This had to be a joke, or a scam. Men didn't just invite random crying women to their homes on Christmas Eve. Dad invited lots of people for Christmas when Mom was here. The little boy, Marcus, said seriously. "Mom said Christmas is for sharing, and that little girl looks sad. Can we help her not be sad?" David's expression flickered with something, grief maybe, at the mention of Mom. But he nodded. "Marcus is right. My wife—" He stopped. "I have plenty of food. And I'm guessing—" He looked at Rachel carefully. "I'm guessing you might not have plans for tonight. And it's Christmas Eve. No one should be alone on Christmas Eve." "I don't know you," Rachel said, even as something in her chest ached with hope. "You could be, I don't know, dangerous or—" "I understand. I'll give you my driver's license, my work ID. I'm a software engineer at Patterson Tech. You can Google me. Call someone and tell them where you're going. I promise I'm just—" He ran a hand through his hair. Look, 3 years ago, my wife died. Cancer. And that first Christmas without her, we were invited to dinner by a neighbor who barely knew us. And it saved me. It saved Marcus. So now, when I see someone who might need help, I remember that kindness. And I want to pay it forward. Rachel looked at Emma, who was watching Marcus with interest. Then back at David, whose eyes were sincere and kind and somehow sad in a way Rachel recognized. The sadness of someone who'd lost something important. Okay, Rachel heard herself say. Okay, thank you. I'm Rachel. This is Emma. Hi, Emma, Marcus said, stepping forward. Do you like dinosaurs? I have like 100 toy dinosaurs at home. And Lego. And we're making sugar cookies. Dad lets me use the cookie cutters and I'm really good at it. Emma looked at Rachel for permission. Rachel nodded and Emma said shyly, I like dinosaurs. And I've never made cookies before. You've never made cookies? Marcus looked shocked. Dad, we have to teach her. Making cookies is the best part of Christmas. David's smile was gentle. Then let's go make some cookies. David lived in a townhouse in Lincoln Park, a beautiful 3-story brick building with a small front yard decorated with white lights. Inside was warm and comfortable, with photos on the walls of David and Marcus and a beautiful woman who must have been Sarah. Sorry about the mess, David said, though the house was remarkably clean. I wasn't expecting guests. Let me show you where everything is. Bathrooms down the hall, kitchens through here. Make yourselves comfortable. In the kitchen, David pulled out ingredients while Marcus dragged Emma to see his dinosaur collection in the living room. The 2 kids disappeared upstairs, their voices and laughter echoing down. Rachel stood awkwardly in the beautiful kitchen, feeling completely out of place in her worn clothes and tangled hair. How do you take your coffee? David asked, already pulling out mugs. Black is fine. Thank you. Rachel paused. David, I need to be honest with you about why I was crying in the park. You don't owe me an explanation. I do. Because you invited us into your home and I don't want you to think. Rachel took a breath. My daughter and I are homeless. We were evicted yesterday. We're staying at a shelter. I lost my job 3 weeks ago. Emma's father left us 2 years ago and we've been struggling ever since. I don't have money for Christmas presents or dinner or anything. And Emma asked if Santa forgot us because we're poor. And I fell apart. David was quiet for a moment, then handed her coffee. I'm glad I found you in that park. I'm glad Marcus wanted to help. And I'm glad you're here. You're not upset that I'm homeless? Struggling? Human? David shook his head. Rachel, everyone struggles. Some of us just have better safety nets. I'm lucky. I have a good job. My parents live nearby. I could afford to take time off when Sarah was sick. But that doesn't make me better than you. It makes me fortunate. And fortune is supposed to be shared. That's a very kind way of looking at it. It's how Sarah saw the world. She volunteered at homeless shelters, food banks, anywhere she could help. She always said that compassion was the only thing that separated humans from monsters. David smiled sadly. She would have liked you. Would have invited you in immediately. I'm trying to do what she would have done. She sounds like she was amazing. She was, and losing her was... David stopped. It's been 3 years and some days I still can't breathe from missing her. But I have Marcus, and I have her memory, and I have the knowledge that she'd want me to keep living, keep helping, keep opening our home to people who need it. Upstairs, Emma shrieked with laughter, a sound Rachel hadn't heard in months. Both adults smiled. They sound happy, Rachel said. Marcus needs friends. He's shy at school. Having Emma here is good for him. David started pulling out cookie dough. Come on. Let's make some Christmas magic happen. They made cookies, David showing Emma how to roll dough and use cookie cutters while Marcus provided enthusiastic commentary. They decorated cookies with colored icing and way too many sprinkles. They laughed when Marcus tried to make a dinosaur cookie that looked more like a blob. They took silly photos with flour on their faces. For dinner, David made pasta and garlic, bread and salad, and they all sat around his dining room table like a family. Emma talked more than Rachel had heard her talk in weeks. Marcus was animated and happy. David was patient and kind and funny. After dinner, David suggested a Christmas movie. They all piled onto the couch, kids in the middle, adults on the ends, and watched Elf while the kids laughed and Rachel tried not to cry at how normal this felt. How right. At 8:30, both kids were falling asleep. Emma was curled against Rachel, and Marcus was leaning on David. "I should go," Rachel said quietly. "We need to get to the shelter before they close check-in at 9. "Or," David said carefully, "you could stay here tonight. I have a guest room. It's made up. Emma can sleep with you, or she can sleep in Marcus's room. He has bunk beds, and he'd probably love having a sleepover buddy. It's Christmas Eve. You shouldn't have to go to a shelter on Christmas Eve." "David, you've already done so much. I have a 3-bedroom house and it's just me and Marcus. I have the space. And honestly," he looked at her, "I don't want you to leave. Not because I pity you, but because this is the best Christmas Eve I've had since Sarah died. You and Emma, you've made tonight feel less empty. Please stay. For Christmas. Let me do this." Rachel felt tears on her cheeks again. "Why are you being so kind to us?" "Because someone was kind to me when I needed it. Because it's Christmas. Because I can." David smiled. "And because Emma asked if Santa forgot her, and I want to prove that he didn't. I have Marcus's old toys in the basement, things he's outgrown but are still good. I have wrapping paper. I can play Santa, if you'll let me. I can't let you buy presents for my daughter. I'm not buying them. I'm wrapping toys that are already here. Toys that Marcus doesn't play with anymore. Toys that would make Emma happy. That's not charity, Rachel. That's just being a good human." He paused. "Please, let me do this. Let Marcus and me have a good Christmas. Let Emma believe in Santa for one more year. Stay." So Rachel stayed. That night, after the kids were asleep, Emma in Marcus's top bunk, Marcus on the bottom, both of them exhausted and happy. David and Rachel stayed up until 2 a.m. wrapping presents. Toys from David's basement. A doll that had been Sarah's when she was young. Books and puzzles and art supplies. "This is too much," Rachel kept saying. "It's not enough," David kept responding. "But it's a start." They put presents under the tree, a real pine tree that smelled like Christmas and was decorated with ornaments that all had stories David shared while they worked. They drank hot chocolate and talked about their lives. Rachel's failed marriage, David's grief, their hopes for their kids, their fears about the future. At 2 a.m., sitting on the couch surrounded by wrapping paper and ribbon, Rachel said, "Thank you. For today, for tonight, for giving Emma a Christmas. I'll never forget this kindness." "You don't have to thank me." "But Rachel," David turned to face her, "I know this is fast. I know we just met. But I want to help you, not just with Christmas, but with everything. My company is hiring for customer service positions. Good pay, benefits, normal hours. I can get your resume to HR. And for childcare, I pay for after-school care for Marcus. But honestly, I'd rather have someone I trust. If you wanted the job, I'd pay you to watch both kids after school. You'd have your days free to work, and you'd have income while you get back on your feet." "David, I can't." "Why not? I need childcare. You need income. Marcus needs friends. Emma needs stability. This helps everyone." He paused. "I'm not asking you to move in or anything weird. But I have resources, and you need help. And there's no shame in accepting help when it's offered sincerely. Rachel looked at this man, this stranger who'd invited her to dinner 6 hours ago and was now offering to change her life. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, yes, thank you, yes." Christmas morning, Emma woke up and ran downstairs to find presents under the tree with her name on them. Her scream of joy woke up the entire house. "Santa came!" Emma shrieked, throwing herself at Rachel. "Mommy, Santa came! He didn't forget us! He remembered!" Rachel held her daughter and cried while David and Marcus watched with matching smiles. Over the next 3 months, Rachel's life transformed. She got the customer service job at David's company. $55,000 a year with benefits, better than anything she'd had before. She found an apartment, small but safe, in a decent neighborhood. Affordable because David had connected her with a landlord he knew who gave her a break on the deposit. She watched Marcus and Emma after school, picked them up together, gave them snacks, helped with homework, let them play while she cleaned David's house. He protested, but she insisted on contributing something. Emma and Marcus became best friends. They were in different grades but went to the same school now, and they were inseparable. And slowly, carefully, Rachel and David became something too. It started with Monday nights becoming family dinner night. All 4 of them at David's house, cooking together, eating together, laughing together. Then weekend trips to museums and parks and the zoo. Movie nights where the kids fell asleep and the adults talked quietly in the dark. David never pressured her, never made her feel like she owed him anything. But Rachel could feel it, the way he looked at her, the way he smiled when she walked into a room, the way he always made sure she had coffee the way she liked it, the way he listened when she talked about her dreams. And Rachel was falling for him. For his kindness, his patience, his love for Marcus, his gentleness with Emma, for the way he made her feel safe for the first time in years. On New Year's Eve, David's parents agreed to watch both kids overnight. David and Rachel went to a low-key party at a friend's house, but left early, walking through the cold Chicago streets toward David's house. At midnight, standing on his front porch with fireworks lighting up the sky, David said, "I need to tell you something." "Okay?" "I've been falling in love with you since that day in the park. Maybe from the moment I saw you trying so hard to be brave for Emma even though you were falling apart. Maybe when you laughed while making cookies. Maybe when you cried because Emma got presents from Santa." He took her hands. "Rachel, I know it's only been 3 months. I know you might not feel the same way. But I can't imagine my life without you and Emma anymore. You are, essential. To me. To Marcus. To our happiness. And I don't want to pretend we're just friends who happen to have family dinners together. I want more. If you do too." Rachel was crying. "I've been in love with you since Christmas morning. When you and Marcus watched Emma open presents with you, so much joy, like her happiness mattered to you. When you helped me find a job and an apartment without making me feel small. When you made me feel like I was worth something again." She stepped closer. "David, I want more too. I want all of this, with you." He kissed her as fireworks exploded overhead and the new year began. 6 months later, David proposed. Simple, no pressure, just the 4 of them, having a picnic in the park where they'd met, and David got down on one knee while Marcus and Emma held a sign that said, "Will you marry us?" Rachel said yes, through tears. They got married 3 months later, September wedding, small ceremony, with Marcus as best man and Emma as flower girl. Both kids cried happy tears. David's parents cried. Rachel's parents came and admitted they'd been wrong about everything, that David was the son-in-law they'd always hoped for. During the vows, David said, "I thought I'd never love again after Sarah died. I thought that part of my life was over. But Rachel, you taught me that the heart has infinite capacity for love. That losing someone doesn't mean you can't find someone else. that second chances exist if you're brave enough to take them. Thank you for being my second chance. For giving Marcus a mother who loves him. For letting me love Emma like she's my own. For building a family with me from broken pieces. Rachel said, I was sitting on a park bench on the worst day of my life when you found me. And you invited me to dinner. And you changed everything. You gave me hope when I had none. Safety when I had none. Love when I thought I didn't deserve it. David, I will spend the rest of my life being grateful that you're the kind of man who stops to help crying strangers in parks. Because stopping for me, that was the moment my life started over. 5 years later, David and Rachel had a daughter together, Lily, and Emma and Marcus were thick as thieves, now 11 and 12, already planning to room together in college. Someday. David had started a foundation in Sarah's name to help homeless families. Rachel volunteered at the shelter where she'd spent that Christmas Eve, paying forward the kindness she'd received. Every Christmas Eve, they went to that same park. Put a bench there with a plaque. In memory of Sarah Morgan, who taught us that compassion is what separates humans from monsters, and in celebration of second chances, found in unexpected places. They'd sit on that bench with their 3 kids and tell the story of how they met. How Emma had asked if Santa forgot them. How David had invited 2 strangers to dinner. How one act of kindness on Christmas Eve had created a family. Best Christmas Eve of my life, David always said. Best park bench of my life, Rachel always responded. Best decision Dad ever made, Marcus would add. Best Santa ever, Emma would finish, hugging her dad. And little Lily, who'd heard the story 100 times, would say, tell it again. So they would, every year. The story of how a crying mother, a concerned father, and 2 kids who just wanted everyone to be happy for Christmas became a family. The story of how sometimes the worst days lead to the best beginnings. The story of how love doesn't always look like what you expect, but it's always worth finding. Best park bench conversation ever. Best Christmas invitation ever. Best decision to stay ever. Best family built from broken pieces and second chances, and the courage to help strangers on cold, December afternoons. If this story touched your heart, let us know in the comments. What score would you give this story from 0 to 10? And where in the world are you watching from? We love connecting with our global community. Share this with someone who needs to hear that single parents deserve second chances at love, that children asking heartbreaking questions about Santa can lead to Christmas miracles, that inviting strangers to dinner on Christmas Eve is sometimes exactly the right thing to do, that accepting help isn't weakness but courage, that widowers can love again without dishonoring their first wife's memory, that homelessness doesn't define your worth, and that the best families are built from people who choose each other. Subscribe if you believe in park bench meetings that change lives, in 6-year-olds who teach adults about compassion, in Christmas cookies that heal broken hearts, in men who offer jobs and childcare to struggling mothers, in women who rebuild their lives with grace and strength, and in the idea that sometimes Santa does come, just not in the way you expected, but in the form of a stranger with kind eyes and a big heart who can't walk past someone crying without stopping to help.